listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name's Cody from Sheridan Street. I am doing a solo episode. Vikram is somewhere in the world. Who knows where he's at right now? Somewhere in Latin America, unable to make it today. But I have a really special guest, somebody that coaches alongside of my mentor, Sharon Srivatsa. And prior to actually hopping into the show, we were in the green room talking about some really cool things that he's doing in his local market. And I'm excited to talk about marketing. We're going to go really deep into marketing. We're going to go really deep into, business growth and niche marketing. But before we get there, I want to introduce you, Juan, my friend. How are you doing? Why don't you give us a high-level overview on kind of like who you are, a little bit of your backstory, how long you've been in real estate, so that we can kind of set people up for an understanding of like who you are and where you're at in the world.
Cody, thank you for having me on. I'm excited. Let me go back to the very beginning. Okay. Let me go back to the beginning. So my story begins living in Mexico, La Victorina, Zacatecas. It's a small little ranch, no running water, no electricity. And my mom and sisters wake up at 3 a.m. It's a 20-minute walk to the closest water well, where they're getting water, buckets of water, and carrying it back so that my mom has water to be able to provide breakfast and lunch and dinner for us for that day. How we get around is on horseback or donkey. How we wash our clothes is there's a river nearby and my mom is washing our clothes on a rock. Okay. That is our upbringing. My parents only have a 6th grade education, and they were afraid that if they kept all of us 8 kids, there's 8 of us, 4 boys, 4 girls, in that environment, that we would only end up with that type of education. They wanted something better for us. And so living in this small little ranch, they saw other people leave to the US, right? And so if you're in Mexico and live in the type of conditions that we lived in, a very rural, poverty, no one's making money. You're farming beans and corn and hoping that the rains come so that you have beans and corn that year. It's that type of condition where I come from. In 1983, I'm 4 years old, and we're finally going to leave to go to the U.S. Okay. My dad had to sell his cattle, the house, and everything we had, so that he could hire the human traffickers to be able to get all of us across to the United States. So we go through this big journey. We say goodbye to our grandparents. We never see them again. There's lots of tears, and we head off to the U.S. And so we arrive in the U.S. in 1983. My parents don't speak English. We don't speak English. And we share a 2-bedroom apartment where there's 10 of us. All 10 of us sleep in the living room for the first couple of years while my dad gets employment. My mom starts to work, and we're able to get our own apartment. The #1 goal that our parents instilled from the very beginning, in crossing the border and going through what that experience, which was not an easy. We did get caught by immigration, sent back. It's not easy to get across the border. It was easier back then, and now it's nearly impossible. But we had this opportunity to be educated here in the U.S. But the mission was education. We come here to get educated and to contribute back to society. And so I lived this life of growing up super poor, but growing up loved by my brothers, my sisters, and my parents. In the summer, so when I was nine years old, I got to see my family go off to go work in the fields. Where we ended up in the U.S. was just south of Fresno. Fresno is like the center part of California. If people drive through there, it's not what you think of California. There's no palm trees. It gets foggy in the winter, and it's over 100 degrees in the summer. And so the one thing that we were able to work so that we could all contribute so that my dad had enough money for gas, food, is that we had to work in our summers. And so we got to go to school, but come summer, we were not going to summer school. We were not part of the YMCA. There was no camps for us. We were going to go work in the fields. And what I got to do, Cody, is I got to go work clipping garlic. And so this is in the month of August, which happens to be the hottest month in the Central Valley. And how that works is you're on your hands and knees, you're grabbing these garlic bulbs in your hands. You have clippers in your hands, and you're clipping the top and the bottom. You're ending up with that garlic bulb, which you would see at the store. And one by one, you drop those in a 5-gallon bucket. And once that's full, you've earned $1. They give you a card that you punch, and you've earned $1 for that bucket. My siblings were stronger. They could get through a lot more than I could. When I first started working as a 9-year-old, I was making $10 a day. That was my contribution to the family. And the reason I'm telling you this, Cody, is that a lot of times people want to know, well, like, what is it that makes him? What makes Juan? And experiences is what makes me. It's what makes you, Cody. And we learn from some, and some things make us better. And so the one thing that I've got to see my whole life is hard work. And the harder I work, the more money I'd make. And so even at the garlic level, if I worked harder, if even though my hands were blistered up and I was hot and I wanted water, if I kept working, I could make a little more money. So you learn that early on as a 9-year-old, and you apply that through the rest of your high school, college career, and my career in general. And it's made who I am. The harder I work, the more I could produce. And that's been my motivating factor moving forward.
That is an incredible backstory. The ability of perseverance and immigration to another country, and, really getting that grit, that love of life, to really push through. Thank you for sharing that. When it comes to getting into real estate, or even backing up before real estate, how did you, after you got here, you grew up in the US, you've faced a lot of hardship, and same with your family has gone through a lot. What was the transition into real estate? What did you do before real estate? The backstory obviously shows the perseverance of making things happen in business and in life. But how did that transition into real estate happen?
I was attending Cal State University, Long Beach, and someone said, I kind of knew, Cody, that I was going to be a business person. After working in the garlic fields, I would come home and I picked up a newspaper route. And so from when I was 9 until I left for college, I was a newspaper boy. I delivered the Hamper Sentinel and the Fresno Bee. Well, one of the things that we were doing there is the area manager would pick up the local newspaper boys. They would take us into new neighborhoods, and we would go knock. Would you like to subscribe to the Hamper Sentinel? We're offering a special this month, $6. The first month is free. The second month is $6. And so I would go door to door to door to door as a little kid. And, back then we weren't worried about being kidnapped, and, thank God nothing happened to us, but it was me and my brothers. And sometimes they would pick us up in the evening, and they would say this, Cody. They would say, if you get 2 new starts, which 2 new subscribers, we take you out to eat pizza. Well, growing up in a Latino family, all I ever ate was really tacos, beans and rice, and that type of food, right? So pizza to me was way better than that, just because it was different. So man, I'm like, let me go sell 2 new subscribers. And so early on, I got really good in sales, really good, knocking on doors, not being afraid. And so then I ended up going into college. Actually, just I want to add this. There's 8 of us, and my parents were successful in their mission of getting all 8 through college. I have some siblings that are now their doctorates, have PhDs. And so everyone was a success. And it's this amazing story that my parents were actually able to achieve this. And so I'm now in college. I decide, well, I'm going to be a business person, and I get a degree in accounting. And I apply all my hard work of, well, let me go work hard and let me get straight A's. Let me do everything that I'm being asked by these large accounting firms. Cody, when you go, if you decide to be an accountant, there's one path. That's the path that everyone wants. You want to work for one of the big 4 firms. One of the big 4 firms, these are the largest in the world. It's KPMG, Deloitte & Touche, Ernst & Young, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Those are the massive 4. Okay, we've all heard those names. They sponsor golf tournaments, the whole thing. All right, they're big companies. They said, do these things and you might get recruited. So I did all of it. You want grades? Check. You want leadership? Check. Tell me what it is. So my junior year, I get recruited by all 4. All 4 give me offers. And I'm like, great. And so this was like my dream at that time. This was my goal. I signed on with Deloitte & Touche because they were the first ones to give me the offer. I felt like the other companies only wanted me because Deloitte had approved of me. And I'm like, you know what? I owe it to them. They saw potential. I'm going to sign up with them. So my senior year, Cody, I'm already signed. There's a signing bonus. and I'm just waiting to finish. They said, just finish your senior year in accounting and we'll wait for you this summer. But you're going to be working in downtown LA. I know you're in Southern California right now, Cody. And so I was going to be working at the Deloitte & Touche offices. Okay. Starting in 2003, the summer of 2003. Well, my senior year, I meet this person and I start working for him. And he is a real estate broker, real estate investor. He's a commercial appraiser. And I'm just his gopher errand boy. And I'm running around doing stuff for whatever he wants. And I'm asking a lot of questions. And he's showing me, I just bought this 8-unit building and now I'm selling it 6 months later. I'm like, wait, you just made $1 million. I'm like, how? And I'm scratching my head. How? And then he's doing it over and over and over. And I'm just running around errands. And he gets used to having me around. And summer is getting close and I'm getting ready to graduate. And he says, Juan, I know you're going to go become a CPA, but just if by chance I could just keep you here and let me be your employer, I will teach you the how to become an investor and how to build wealth through real estate. And I said, no way. I'm going to go become a CPA. You know, at that moment, Cody, it's a very interesting thing. It was like, I was taught that resume was everything and you need these big corporations to give you the confidence. And you could tell everyone that you work for Deloitte & Touche and you become a CPA and you're this manager and everyone looks up to you because you're this. And that's what I thought, right? Because I didn't know any better. I mean, it wasn't like my parents were corporate people. My dad was still working in the fields. I mean, he was unable to help me. Now he helped me work hard and obviously taught me like, you work hard, you could achieve whatever you want, but there was no guidance. And so I'm like, okay, I want to do that. So it's getting closer and closer to graduating and Deloitte's waiting for me. And someone else pulled me aside and they said, hey, Juan, and this is an older person, Jeff. And he said, I understand that Mark has given you this offer. I understand you have Deloitte waiting for you. And he said, if I was in your shoes, if you learn what Mark's going to teach you, the sky's the limit. There's no cap. He's like, unfortunately, if you become a CPA, it's a reputable career. People will respect that, right? It's going to look good on a resume. He's like, but you are kind of capped. Like you will be capped in the corporate world and they're going to work the hell out of you. And so that kind of got me thinking. And the more and more I thought about it, I'm like, well, what's the worst that could happen? If I bomb, taking the kind of the path of like least taken, if I bomb, I'll go back to accounting. So that was my first introduction. I called up Deloitte and I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to take that job. They were so upset. Really? We spent an entire year recruiting you. We could have recruited somebody else. You took some spot. And I'm like, I'm a 23-year-old kid. Like, I don't really know my future path, right? So I called Mark. I'm like, hey, I'm going to take you up on that offer. And so that was my first introduction into not so much real estate sales, Cody, but I came in this back way of real estate. I came in looking at deals, adding value, buying something for a certain price, making a lot more. And Cody, by the time I was 27, so this was 4 years later and I'm working with Mark. I have a portfolio, multi-million-dollar portfolio. I owned lots of units, condos, commercial buildings with him. Some I owned on my own. And he taught me a lot. And what ended up happening is 2008, 2009, we get this massive crash. Changes the entire landscape of the way that we were doing and operating our business. Which leads me into the direction of what am I going to do now? It was hard to raise money. The investor confidence was gone. And what the hell was I going to do? So I continued working with Mark alongside him and kind of going into different projects that he was doing. But maybe about 4 years ago, I branched off on my own. And I said, at that moment, Cody, I was a real estate broker, but I would call myself a secret agent. There was no branding or marketing or who's Juan. If you were to Google me, there was nothing out there. And about 4 years ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to just be full-time real estate broker, do investments when I see fit. You know, I mean, that's what I am first as an investor. And then we grew our brand. And so 4 years later, I'm here. I'm the broker owner of Sage Real Estate. I specialize in multifamily. I chose multifamily because I was investing a lot in that. I don't sell houses. That kind of separates me a little different than most residential agents. Some of the tactics of marketing that they use applies for me, but there's other strategies that don't. You know, open houses is a big lead pillar for them. We don't get to do open houses. And so that's kind of what happened, how I took the path less traveled, a big risk. I mean, a lot of people would have not done that. And
That's
in fact,
majority of people will do that.
a lot of people called me and said, "You're an idiot. How would you let that chance go? You had the job that everyone wants and you said no for what? For real estate?" Dude, real estate is not a respected profession by anybody. And you know this. I mean, the way that we're viewed is not like, "Oh my gosh, you're in real estate." You're like, we're just like everybody else, right? I mean, overall, that's how we're perceived. So I got a lot of negative people saying you made a mistake. And so, this has been over 20 years now. And so I look back and there was times where I questioned my decision, Cody. It wasn't like slam dunk, real estate's the answer. There's times where man, I probably made a wrong mistake, but I think now I chose the right route and certainly happy where I'm at and where I put myself and what we're doing now with Sage Real Estate, which is, I really love what we're doing now.
I want to back up a little bit because the one thing that, I literally just got done a podcast with Ginger Walker, and Ginger and I were talking about mentors, and it's kind of like, and I've been like really trying to dissect this in my own head lately around like, how have I managed? Cause like I was chatting with my mindset coach about this the other day, like how have I managed to attract mentors like Sharon and like, like connect with people that, have done very well in business and very well in real estate. And I've been trying to dissect this in order to help other people find mentors. It's like kind of like what did you do early on in your business in order to attract your first mentor? And what advice would you give to somebody that like is new in real estate, or maybe somebody that's tenured in real estate that feels a little bit stuck? Because, I have this firm belief that, generally when we have a thinking problem, we need to find a mentor. It sounded like you like, it wasn't necessarily luck. It was like you found somebody that helped guide you through the journey of getting into real estate. Can you like talk a little bit about that? Like how can real estate professionals find that person that can help them accelerate their business?
So the very first mentor, well, I mean, I would really start in high school. Kent Olson is my wrestling coach. I grew up wrestling. I tell people choose wrestling because it's like the one sport you don't need any money for. They give you an old pair of shoes and wrestling gear, and you don't need money. It caters to the very lower social economic levels for some reason. I'm not saying a lot of people could do it, but it's a sport that like in my town where there's primarily a lot of Latinos, a lot of us, that was the sport we did. It was just very cheap to get into. And obviously I took my work ethic from working in the fields to grabbing onto somebody and doing some wrestling. So my very first mentor who really showed me like what I could achieve and you could do so much more was Kent Olson. He's still alive. He was my coach. All of my brothers wrestled, and he taught me from the very beginning that Juan, there's so much more than the life in Lemoore. And Lemoore is a very small town where we grew up, migrant, a lot of field workers. And so I'm not saying it's a bad place. It was a very good place for me, but he showed me like, you could do so much more with your life. And so, so first would be Kent Olson. And so how did I find him? Well, he was my coach. He believed in me, and I asked what he did of me. Okay. And I think that's going to be the first tip, Cody. I think in order for someone to want to really mentor you, you have to do what they say. Cody, I'm in a position now where people are now reaching out to me. One, I'm looking for a mentor. And you know this, Cody, and people reach out to you too, and they reach out to Sharon and Vikram. Hey, can you mentor me? They don't really want to be mentored. They're not ready to be mentored because you're going to give them something like, okay, first thing I want you to read is this book. 9 times out of 10, you go back, check with them. Hey, I sent you that book. Did you read it? No, like I haven't gotten around to it. They're not ready to be mentored. So what I'm telling you is you have to be ready to be mentored. You have to be wanting to be like accepting of what's going to be asked of you, because the mentor is going to do their job. You have a job. You need to understand that if you're looking for someone to mentor, you are asked to now do something, because you're not just going to take. Okay. That's part one. Obviously when I was, the person who got me into real estate's Mark Milan, still my business partner, one of my best friends still. And so I was working alongside Mark. I was committed to Mark. I was loyal to Mark. Mark was loyal to me. Okay. Boom. He became a mentor. Okay. When I see loyalty, that's what I look for. Okay. I'm going to be loyal to you. I expect you to be loyal to me. And I saw that. And maybe sometimes, there was other people that came along the way where I'm like, oh, they could be a mentor, but maybe they did something you didn't like the way that they conducted business. Maybe you didn't like the way that they acted. outside of business setting. And so maybe that might not be your mentor, but, and now, so let me get into Sharon. I got to see Sharon at an event. They had invited the top producers, top 1% of brokers in Southern California. And so I got an email. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm top 1%. Great. I go, Sharon's there. Sharon tells a story. He's showing us how he does marketing and video marketing and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, I liked him. And so it's interesting because I don't know that, so now I would say that Sharon is someone like, I consider him a mentor. Okay. We're probably the same age. He might even be a couple years younger than me, but I like, it's not like Sharon may not even know he's my mentor. It's just, I really believe in what he's saying. There's a way that he teaches. There's a way that he's conducting business that I respect. And I've been able to apply that. And so I consider him a mentor as well. And I'll continue to look for people to mentor me because I'm always there to learn. Listen, if you're in this world of growth and I want to be better and I want to be my best, you're always looking for those people to help you get there. And so Sharon, for me, we're going to get into niche marketing. And so let me just tell you the story. Okay. So it's 4 years ago, I start my own brokerage, Sage Real Estate. I have 20 years of experience investing, helping some people buy and sell, but I'm not really a big name yet. And I'm listening to Sharon's podcast, and Sharon says, he had just sold his company. Tellus, he had just sold it. And then he was on a podcast and everyone had him on. And so he said, the one thing I know that every successful real estate up and down California, the one thing I know, they have a dominant farm, a geographical farm. Okay. Now, at that moment, I had decided that, I'm not going to focus in on houses. That's not going to be my specialty. I want to just sell multifamily. And I thought, well, I really can't have like a geographical farm because I can't go knock on an apartment building because the owners typically don't live there, right? So that part wasn't going to work to me. But he's like, once you figure out so then what I made up was I'm going to have a demographical farm. I'm going to farm to fourplex owners in the city of Long Beach, okay? And so what Sharon was saying in that podcast was like, okay, once you figure out where you want to be, how many are there? So there's 2,800 fourplexes in Long Beach. How many sell in a year? On average, 100. And what's the average sales price? And so then what that allowed for me to do from like a niche marketing perspective is I went out and said, I'm going to become the fourplex market leader of the city of Long Beach. And that podcast was the inspiration for me choosing a farm. And I think some people would call it like a demographic farm. And I started just, everything that I did from a marketing perspective was, does it serve the fourplex owner community? Cody, up until this point, I assure you that no one ever raised their hand and said, I want to be a fourplex market leader.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
That never rolled out of anyone's tongue. I created a game that no one else was playing. And I said, I'm going to make this game up. No one's still playing. In fact, people are like, want to have at it. We don't even want to start competing with you. And so then the fourplex owners are like, oh my gosh, someone is dedicated to me, the fourplex. Someone is dedicated to me. Now, luckily in Long Beach, there's a lot of fourplexes. And so there's a lot of people that I could market to. And so all of a sudden, I tell people, I am the only firm dedicated to you, the fourplex owner. And here's why that benefits you. And so just having that target really allowed me to focus all my efforts. Listen, we have there's so many different ways we could do marketing. There's so much money we could spend. Yeah. But listen, we do run out of money. We do run out of time. So if everything is focused in on that market, and if in my case, it's the 4-unit market, but I agree with Sharon, you need to have a market that is who you're constantly, consistently marketing to. Totally. And that's really made the difference in my business.
I really want to dissect this because it's so taboo, especially in the real estate industry, where I've been saying from a marketing perspective for years that, you need to niche down, you need to find an audience that you want to speak to, because if you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. And it's you've gotten so I would even consider your niche almost like a niche within a niche, almost what we in the marketing space, what we call a sub niche. So when somebody chooses their sub niche, maybe you can walk us through what you're doing in order to make those fourplex owners feel special or feel heard. How are you marketing to them? What does the messaging look like? What do the mediums look like? Because you've gone all in on branding as well. You mentioned you have a YouTube channel for the last 3 years. You're really following Sharon's advice as famous, the most efficient business model. But I'm curious to know there's the brand Juan, but then there's the brand Juan to the fourplex owners. Like, how are you getting in front of them? What are you doing in order to make yourself known to that specific sub niche?
A couple of different ways. And so here's what I'm going to advise. Okay. So I've become Cody. Now this wasn't, I don't want to say that I went into it with, this is what I was going to do, but you're talking about community. Okay. So here's my community, right? So like my community is this. I'm Juan Huizar, president of Sage Real Estate. I am dedicated to mom and pop apartment owners, just like you. Mom and pop independent apartment owners, just so that I cover everybody. Okay. Mom and pop independent apartment owners. And so I've created this community. We have, the fourplex inner circle. Okay. You're going to love that because that's very Sharon. Yeah. We have on Facebook, LOL, Landlords of Long Beach. Who's my market? Landlords. That's my community. Everything I cover is so we have LOL. We have the kind of our fourplex inner circle. We also have our weekly VIP deal of the week that comes from Sharon. You know, all these things listen, all the information is out there, Cody. It's always out there. There's no secrets. There's no secret anything. Everyone is on podcasts. It's in books. It's on videos. It's just that people do not want to apply it. Going back to, I want to have a mentor. I'm being asked to do something by the mentor and I'm not going to do it. That means you don't care. And a lot of people simply don't care. They take this profession, it's a hobby for a lot of people. For me, it's not that. It's a profession. You know, I come at it from that perspective. But okay, so early on, what we did is, you know, Sharon would say, dive deep in your market. Okay, so what's that mean? We wanted to know the persona, Cody. Who is the fourplex owner? And I didn't know who it was, right? Because this is all new. At that moment, I had sold my fair share and I chose it for this reason. I was an independent apartment broker and I was at every big company, these big, massive companies that have been around for 50 years, like they're chasing the big apartment owners. Okay. That's what they're doing. And so I wanted something that was like the path of least resistance that was still in the investment world. And that's why I decided on the fourplexes. But so I was calling fourplex owners and I said, hey, I know you're a fourplex owner. I dedicate my business to people like you. Would you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Why did I do that? I wanted to know who they are. What do they do for a profession? Why do they buy the fourplex? Their educational level, marital stat. We got deep. Family. Like, what is your goal? Okay, so this is like finding the persona for your market.
Wow.
Some people might think, oh, it's a waste of time. No, it's not. Because I learned something. I realized I knew who they were and I knew how to find them. And the way to find them was not our new tactics of doing video on YouTube. The way to find them was the majority of fourplex owners were much, much older. Okay. English was a second language. They did not have a degree. Over and over and over and over again, I heard that. So then I'm like, okay, then how can I reach them? They're not on social media. Yeah. Okay. I can't go to their house. They don't live at the fourplex for the most part. And so it was heavy postcard campaign, consistent, monthly. They read the Long Beach Business Journal. Make sure that we're in the Long Beach Business Journal.
Yeah.
Totally. They were a part of the apartment association. Well, where do you think, okay, fast forward, Cody, so I know all this stuff now.
Yeah.
I was just asked to be on the board of the apartment association. Think of what I'm doing, Cody. Like I'm literally putting myself in the center of the people that I'm trying to serve.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just it's if you know, and so here's the important thing about niche marketing. Cause now listen, if someone said, hey, Juan, sell off Sage Real Estate, go find a new niche. I'm like, easy. I'll choose a zip code. I'll choose a place that I'm passionate about. So some people I'm like, you know, I don't have the experience. I don't know what niche, like you have to want to sell that product. Okay. I did not want to sell houses. I don't, that's not my thing. Other people are like luxury, or they think, I think I want to do luxury. Really? Because everyone else wants to do that. Why don't you choose a zip code that is a very easy to entry and dominate that zip code? But they don't do that.
Yeah.
I think the niche marketing is something that once you figure out, so like I learned the persona, I knew how to talk to them, I knew their language, and I said, what's important to you? What's important to you? What's important to you? What's important to you? Well, I'm concerned that, they passed statewide rent control. I'm concerned about the eviction moratorium. My tenants are saying this. They're saying that the laws are going to continue changing. They're going to be anti-landlord. And so all of, because you're talking about messaging, what's the message? Everything apart, every concern that an apartment owner is having, I just keep a big list and I'm like, let me answer that. Let me answer that. Let me answer that. Now we've done it on a postcard level. We've done it on a webinar level. We're now having in-person meetings. Because why? Because the people that I cater to, they're older and they want to come meet me in person and shake my hand and look in my eyes.
Of course they do. Yeah.
That's who they are. They're not, okay, now, just so you know, because you brought up the YouTube channel. So the sellers are much, much older, okay? And they've owned for 30 years, Cody. And what's happening right now is, well, then who's buying? Okay. Now, those are the people,
Yeah.
college educated, mid-30s, they own a house, and they know the importance of investing in real estate. They've done a lot of research already. And so it's interesting that the cycle, Cody, of I've owned for 30 years and now I'm a multimillionaire, then gets transferred over to these new people. And how did these people find me? Those people may have found me now on Google. I got strong Google reviews. I have the videos. My SEO is dominant. And so now it's like, and they also enjoy, we just had our in-person meeting, standing room in my office. People came to learn. And it's interesting that there's not, you need to find out who you're talking to, because you're right. You could say all kinds of things, but what's it matter posting 10 times a day if you're not targeting who you really want to target?
100%.
Cody, even worse.
Yeah.
You don't know who your target is. So then what's your message? Your message is all over the place. Not mine. You go on my my Instagram, multifamily Long Beach, very focused on ownership, on investment, on analyzing a deal. We just finished up with a course. What's it on? How to analyze a deal. I've created my custom, I didn't copy, I saw one of Sharon's videos. Yeah. And so I created what I call our Invest Wisely 621 formula. These are the metrics that I use anytime that I'm buying something or I'm walking through one of my clients on what to invest. So now we have a course dedicated to that, but everything serves my client nonstop. And so it's consistent. When you're not going to go away, you're not going to let up on your niche, and they know they could count on you to be there for breaking news. Here in Southern California, they just extended the eviction moratorium. I'm covering that. I'm emailing, I'm calling them, texting these people like, hey, did you know this is what just happened? I just want to let you know. They love that I'm there for them.
I have loved this conversation so far, and I'm excited to go a little bit deeper, because the niche marketing stuff is something that, I think that a lot of people struggle with. Like the agents that I talk with, they struggle with it because they're like, what am I passionate about? Like, I'm passionate about homes, but what niche can I actually serve? So sometimes it's hard for them to find a niche. And the other issue that they have is I think based on the conversation I have is well, if I go all in on this marketing, will people still come to me that want to sell residential because I need to sell homes? While I build out this sub niche, I need to sell homes. What would your advice be to the agents that, are in residential right now? They might be selling 6 to 8 homes a year, or maybe they're selling 15 to 20. They're pretty successful. And they're I really want to pick a niche. I really want to go deep on waterfront, or I really want to go deep on ocean view, or I really want to go deep on, commercial, or you go, even specific landlords. How do they find something that resonates with them that is a sub niche?
I would bring out a pen and paper, and you go back to all of your transactions and you figure out where have you felt most comfortable? Where have you been most excited? Where have you been? Now, Cody, I've had the luxury of having a real estate coach, different companies, I'm out there trying to see where I fit best. And I had one real estate coach say, Juan, you get really, really excited when you talk about investments. You don't get so excited when you talk about single family homes. And so if I'm talking to a residential agent, I'm going to say, hey, why don't you go ask your 6 closest friends? Hey, when I talk about work, what is it that you kind of see a sense of excitement? And they may not realize it yet, but now that you put it in their ear, the next time they'll tell you, you seem to really love selling craftsman homes. You love a craftsman house. You love the porch. You love the swing on the porch. You love the hardware. But you're unaware that you love that. I would say, become a specialist in selling craftsman homes in a certain zip code in a certain area. Everyone has a passion, and it's just sometimes it's your voice that lets people know that you're excited about something. You may not know. Now, I was fortunate early on, someone told me that. I'm like, really? Oh, how would I know that? I mean, we're not diving that deep into what we're into. So that would be the first thing. Now, the second thing, because you said like, hey, oftentimes people are going to say, and this happened to me too, they're like, Juan, I don't know if that's a good idea because you're leaving money on the table because they're not going to call you for an 8-unit building and they're going to call you for anything that's over 4. That couldn't be the furthest from the truth. Cody, here's the thing. Outsiders outside of the world of real estate, if you say I sell multifamily, and even if I say, hey, I specialize in the fourplex market in the city of Long Beach, does that mean that a fourplex owner from the city of Hawthorne is not going to call me? No.
Yeah.
But people think that. People are like, Juan, you're too specialized. And I'm like, you have no idea. And now I'm on the other end. I know the calls that are coming in. People like, okay, just the general public doesn't know like they don't know when you're specializing as much. And so someone could call and say, hey, I was on your website. I see you do a lot of apartment buildings. Like they don't say, I see you do fourplexes. They just say, I see you do a lot of apartment buildings. I just inherited a piece of land in Signal Hill. Can you help me with it? The most interesting thing, Cody, that's been happening in my business, we went from focusing in on multifamily and like digging deep into that. And what's happened? I'm selling office buildings. I'm getting land listings. Yeah. I mean, it has not, it really being consistent in one thing has just, I've been able to tap other people. Like when I'm in the Long Beach Business Journal and someone sees my ad or someone's on our website or someone reads our reviews, not everyone understands exactly the pinpoint we're trying to be at. And they'll simply call you and say, can you help with this? And if you can, great. If you can't, then you refer that out. But for us, I went, Cody, from this. I went from, we only do multifamily to now we're like, hey, Sage Real Estate, we're dominating commercial. Like we're taking listings from these big companies, office buildings, and it's why. It's just that they like our energy. They don't really care that we're not focused 100% into commercial, but it's really allowed me. So now I'm like, hey, I cater to them too. So just because you focus in, because I think you said this, hey, like, what if I focus in on this, but then I leave business on the table? You're not going to do that. I think that once you're consistent and outside leads come in, you could service those. And I don't say don't service those. I'm just saying be consistent. Don't let up on that group. Don't ever let that group know you've left them or you abandoned them.
Yeah.
And to my point, the group doesn't need to know that they're a group. Fourplex owners did not know that they were this fourplex owners, right?
Yeah.
Another thing we started doing was I started having the fourplex of the month. Cody, I drove around every single fourplex, 2,800 fourplexes in the city of Long Beach. And I'm like, that's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. I started taking photos. And then we just sent a letter. Hey, well, want to let you know that we've, the month of March, we've said you're the fourplex of the month. It's not for sale, may never sell, but they're like, oh, hey, I'm the fourplex of the month, right? And then we put it up on social media and be like, okay, hey, you're tracking fourplex markets. It's we've had a lot of fun with it, and none of that happens without the niche. The dominance of what we've done as a company. It's weird that the niche has really expanded into this overall Long Beach investment real estate. Anything under that umbrella, we're out there servicing.
I want to close up with this because, we chatted about niche marketing, but I want to end with creative strategy. And the reason I want to end with creative strategy, because you're giving a lot of it's like you got really, really clear on your offer. You're really, really clear on your audience. You're serving them at a really high level. Even that idea of creating, fourplex in the month. Where are you learning these creative strategies that are allowing you to stand out from the crowd? Because I've personally never heard of that before. I've never heard of
I made it up.
I'm taking photos.
Yeah.
Where do these creative strategies come from? Is it somebody on your team that's helping you? Is it does it come naturally? Where have you learned these creative strategies?
Cody, I in the past would have not considered myself a creative. That's not a word that I would have used with myself. It's once I knew the focus, the niche portion, the ideas come up every day. Cody, every morning I come into the office, I'm sure my team hates it. And I have a new idea. I'm like, hey, I had this idea. Now I'm going to do this. And it's because I think about the fourplex owners and the mom and pop independent apartment owners every single day. I think about them. And I'm like, they might like this. They might like this too. They might like a meetup group. They might like to just get somewhere where they're not sold anything. They're just taught. and no one's taking their email and no one's asking them to sign up, which is what I did last night. It's, hey, they might like if I do a quarterly little mixer with beer and appetizers, and I'm not selling anything, sponsored by me. I'll say some words. And it's so the creativity, the ideas stem from, are now coming from me daily. It's crazy the ideas come, but it's because I'm so focused and I'm worried about them. I'm worried about what's happening to them. What concerns do they have? And so I do have a lot of outside help. So by no means am I doing my own videos. By no means am I doing my own SEO. I have a marketing director. I have tremendous business partners, but they're on the same mission that I am. And we're all looking at the same target. It's our target that's just allowed. So now I tell people, people are like, man, you must really love what you do. I'm like, I love brainstorming and creative ideas. I didn't realize, Cody, I did not realize, like I thought that I loved closing transactions and getting big checks and helping people build wealth. And I love all that. But the creativity portion and the fact that I'm in control of the direct results of what my business does is the most satisfying part of my business.
Juan, I just want to say thank you for sharing this valuable knowledge around niche marketing, because I think that there are so many real estate agents out there that would thrive if they just did more of the things that they love and they found people that they really wanted to serve at a high level. Like I was literally chatting with a agent the other day, and their whole entire premise was, giving back to charity. So they created offers around like, hey, we give back to charity because that's the whole purpose of the business. And there's like, essentially what you're doing is like, it's like, I want to serve this specific type of person at such a high level that like you show up differently, you show up with intention. I just want to say thank you more than anything for showing up with intention, especially for this podcast today. If somebody were to want to reach you, maybe it's an agent to agent referral, maybe it's out of state and they're like, hey, I have a client that is looking for a fourplex or looking for an investment property in Long Beach, where is the best place that we can send them in order to reach out to you directly?
Mm-hmm. I would, two places. I would love for everyone to go onto our website, and I'm sure you're going to plug it in here, but it's Sage RE for real estate, sageregroup.com. Our website's where you can get a lot of information. You get to see all our videos, read our blogs, see what we're up to, see some of our listings. I say a couple things. If you like the message, okay, and if you're in Southern California, of course we want to work with you. If you're like, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, but man, I want to buy my first fourplex, reach out to us. We have nationwide affiliates and we could get you set up. If you're someone in Southern California, you're thinking, do I qualify? We have a mortgage arm now, Sage Trust Mortgage, that's got your back there. If you're someone not in my area, but you want to learn my 621 Invest Wisely formula, we have a course for you. I want to help. I want to give back. Dude, if agents want to talk marketing, niche marketing, YouTube videos, I spent 3 years building what we got and all the videos and everything. We didn't even talk about that, Cody. So maybe for another podcast, we just only focus on YouTube, and I could show people the growth that we've had, and more importantly, how YouTube has become one of our largest lead pillars. And so thank you for having me. SageREgroup.com. If you're on Instagram, I would say follow Multifamily Long Beach, at Multifamily Long Beach. We're going to keep it simple. And shoot me a message if you like, if you learned something. Listen, if I said something that you don't agree with, send me a message. Let's have an open discussion. I love it.
Juan, man, I appreciate all the value you brought today. You brought a ton of value. Anyone listening back to the show I really think is going to think about like the zip code, going to think about the person they want to serve, going to think about the type of property they want to sell. And, all super valuable stuff that share the same type of ethos about marketing and about business. So this was absolutely amazing. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.